King Charles III is battling cancer. His public schedule has been cut back. His doctors are in charge of what he can do, and other royals are stepping into the spotlight. So the question a lot of people are quietly asking is King Charles strong enough to reign? And what actually happens to the monarchy when the king is seriously ill? Today on Brit Glam, we're breaking down the king's diagnosis, his lighter schedule, the so-called phased return, and how Buckingham Palace is quietly rearranging the royal machine to keep the crown running. Before we dive in, a quick but important note. This video is based on information that was publicly available up to late 2024. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not here to guess at private medical details we don't know. Buckingham Palace has confirmed that King Charles has a form of cancer discovered during treatment for an enlarged prostate, and that it is not prostate cancer. Beyond that, they've chosen not to release specifics, and that is their right. Our focus in this video is what's publicly known about his condition and schedule, how the constitutional role of the monarch works during illness, and how Queen Camilla and Prince William are stepping up. This is about understanding the institution and its response, while still respecting that Charles is a human being going through cancer treatment. To understand why King Charles' illness matters so much for the monarchy, you have to look at where he is in life and where the institution is. He waited more than 70 years to become king, the longest wait of any heir in British history. He came to the throne in September 2022, aged 73, after the death of Queen Elizabeth II. From day one, he signaled that he wanted a slimmed-down monarchy, a smaller core team of working royals, fewer people on the balcony, less excess. But that plan came with a risk. When you have fewer working royals, every illness, every accident, every scandal hits the system harder. By early 2024, the monarchy was already under pressure. Prince Harry and Meghan had stepped down as working royals. Prince Andrew was effectively sidelined. Catherine, Princess of Wales, had undergone major abdominal surgery and then revealed her own cancer diagnosis. So when news broke that Charles himself had cancer, it wasn't just a personal shock. It hit at the exact moment when the monarchy was already stretched thin. Here's how the king's cancer story unfolded. January 2024, Buckingham Palace announced that the king was being treated for an enlarged prostate. This was described as a benign condition, and he went into hospital for a corrective procedure. At that point, it was explicitly said this was not cancer. However, during this treatment, doctors discovered a separate issue. On 5 February 2024, Buckingham Palace released a statement that changed everything. They announced that tests following his prostate treatment had found a form of cancer. The king had started a schedule of regular treatments. He would pause public-facing duties, but he would continue with the constitutional side of being monarch. They also added a key line. It is not prostate cancer. No type of cancer was specified. No stage. No prognosis. That vagueness led to a huge amount of speculation, but the palace's position was clear. The public is entitled to know that their head of state has cancer, but not to every medical detail. Practically, it meant public engagements canceled or postponed. No walkabouts, openings, official visits, or big ceremonial appearances for a while. But state business continued. The king still received his red boxes, the daily government papers he must read and approve. He still held his weekly audience with the Prime Minister, sometimes in person, sometimes remotely. He could still give formal approval to laws and appointments. So while symbolically the king seemed to disappear from public view, constitutionally he was still very much on the throne and at work, just in a more private, reduced way under medical guidance. By late spring and summer 2024, Buckingham Palace started using a phrase we'd hear again and again: a phased return to public duties. In plain English, that means he was well enough to be seen in public again, but not well enough to return to the non-stop schedule we often see with younger monarchs or his late mother. His first high-profile engagement after the announcement was symbolically very important: a visit to a cancer treatment center. By doing that, The king and his team were trying to do two things at once: reassure the public, showing him upright, engaged, smiling, and talking to patients and staff. Align his personal illness with public service, using his own experience to highlight cancer awareness, early diagnosis, and the work of medical staff. From that point on, his schedule stayed lighter and more controlled. Engagements were shorter, with limited walking and less time on his feet. Events were carefully chosen to reflect his passions: environment, faith, community, health. There were more spacing gaps between appearances, giving him time to rest and undergo treatment. Each public sighting sent the same message: the king is still here, he's still working. He's ill, but he's not stepping aside. So, behind the scenes, what actually changes when the monarch is undergoing cancer treatment? First, let's separate two sides of the job. Public role: ceremonies, visits, speeches, walkabouts, investitures. Constitutional role: approving laws, meeting the Prime Minister, appointing ministers and judges, formal duties with the Privy Council. When Charles's cancer treatment began, the public role was heavily scaled back. The constitutional role continued, with adjustments if necessary, shorter meetings, sometimes virtual or private, always built around his health. The system has safety nets built in. If a monarch is temporarily unable to perform certain official functions, Counsellors of State can be appointed to act in their name for specific tasks. These are usually the spouse of the monarch, in this case Queen Camilla. The next four adults in the line of succession over 2-1 that includes Prince William, and historically also Prince Harry and Prince Andrew. But in 2022, Parliament passed a law allowing Princess Anne and Prince Edward, Duke of Edinburgh, to serve as additional Counsellors of State, reflecting who is actually active and trusted in public life. In reality, during Charles's treatment, there was no formal regency that only comes into play if the monarch is judged incapable of fulfilling their role long-term for reasons like severe mental or physical incapacity. Instead, Queen Camilla and Prince William have taken on more of the public-facing pressure, while the king focuses on core constitutional functions and selected engagements. You've probably noticed, Queen Camilla has been everywhere, representing the king at major events, standing in for him at services, keeping up a busy program of visits. Prince William has become the most visible male royal after the king, leading investitures, fronting key ceremonies, and representing the crown at national and some international events. This is how a modern aging monarchy tries to cope with serious illness. The symbolic head remains the same. The load-bearing work is increasingly spread out among a small group of senior royals. It's the slimmed-down monarchy under stress and being quietly rebalanced in real time. With any royal illness, especially cancer, one big question keeps popping up online. Is he strong enough to reign? And will he abdicate? Let's unpack that calmly. Traditionally, the British monarchy works on the idea of lifelong duty. Queen Elizabeth II famously said, "I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service." She never abdicated, even in great age and declining health. The last abdication in the UK was Edward VIII in 1936, and it caused a constitutional earthquake. It's still seen as a crisis moment. Charles grew up in the shadow of that story. Everything we know about him suggests he sees the crown as a duty he carries to the end, not a job you resign from because it's hard. For a monarch to stop ruling without abdication, you'd usually need a formal regency, under laws like the Regency Acts. That requires official medical confirmation that the monarch is incapable of performing their role, and a formal declaration by key figures such as the spouse, the Lord Chancellor, and others. As of late 2024, nothing publicly suggests that King Charles's condition meets that threshold. He's undergoing treatment, he's reduced his public schedule, but he is still meeting the Prime Minister, dealing with government papers, performing key ceremonial roles when his health allows. So, is he physically weaker than a younger monarch? Yes. Is he dealing with a serious illness? Yes. But under the UK's system, that doesn't automatically mean he is not strong enough to reign. Instead, what we're seeing is the beginning of a gradual shift of day-to-day visibility to Prince William, while Charles remains the constitutional and symbolic head until either his death or a decision that would be historically huge and very unlikely: abdication. So, what does King Charles' cancer battle tell us about where the monarchy is heading? A few big takeaways. 1. The crown is becoming more obviously a team effort. The image of an all-powerful, tireless single monarch is fading. Instead, we see an older king with limited energy and treatment cycles, a queen consort acting almost as co-leader in public, an heir, Prince William, slowly stepping into the role of day-to-day frontman. 2. The slimmed-down monarchy is under real pressure, with Harry and Meghan out, Andrew sidelined, Catherine in cancer treatment, Anne having had her own health scare. There aren't many senior royals to share the load. That makes any illness at the top feel more dramatic because there are fewer backups. 3. Transition has unofficially begun. Even if Charles reigns for many more years, his cancer and age mean that the public will get increasingly used to seeing more of William, acting in quasi-kingly ways, treating Camilla as a central figure of continuity, understanding that monarchy in the 21st century is fragile, human, and aging, not the invincible machine it once tried to appear. Now, over to you. Do you think King Charles should carry on as long as he possibly can, like his mother? Or should the UK start openly discussing abdication and regency as realistic options in a modern democratic country? Let me know in the comments, but keep it respectful. We're talking about a real person with a real illness, and millions of people who care deeply about the future of their monarchy. If you found this deep dive helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next Brit Glam breakdown on royal power, health, and the future of the crown. Thanks for watching.